Hey everyone, it's Mariana, and we all float down here. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's talk about It Chapter 2. This is, of course, the second part of the It story, once again directed by Andy Muschietti, in which the grown-up Losers Club have to come back to their hometown of Derry and must once again face Pennywise the dancing clown 27 years later. This was one of my most anticipated films of the year. I really enjoyed the first movie. There's a review on my channel. It's something I've rewatched multiple times, including a few days before seeing Chapter 2, and just like everyone else, my big question was, is the sequel going to be as good as the first film? Well, maybe it's not as good, but it's good enough. I actually feel like I enjoyed the movie more than a lot of other people, judging by what I'm seeing on Letterboxd and the score on Rotten Tomatoes. But even though I had a lot of fun watching it, I can't really say it blew me away. It's pretty much exactly what you would expect, and maybe that means that as time goes by, we will all appreciate it more. But as is, I can't really think of anything it does better than the first film that would really set it apart. It Chapter 2 works. It's not a bad film. It's not a boring film. The humor works. The scares work. Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise is still fantastic. It's absolutely an iconic performance, and he has some fun scenes this time around as well. The adult Losers cast is excellent. I know people have been talking about Bill Hader stealing the show, and I can totally understand where they are coming from. He actually really surprised me. I generally did not have strong feelings about Bill Hader either way going into this film, but his performance as Richie definitely made me appreciate him as an actor a lot more. I'm even finally interested in watching Barry because of this. But the standout performance for me was actually James Ransone as Eddie. Not only is this the most spot-on adult version casting I've seen in any movie, but he also nails the personality and physicality of young Eddie to a point where you may start wondering if there was time travel involved to make this happen. Speaking of the kids, there are a lot of flashbacks in this film, and I think it's pretty debatable whether or not all of them were necessary. But here's another thing. The de-aging looks weird. If you didn't know, which I actually didn't going into this, but they had to digitally de-age the Young Losers Club for the flashbacks because I guess the young actors have changed enough that they looked significantly different from part one. I kid you not, as I was watching, I kept thinking something about these guys looks weird. Something is off. And when I later read about the de-aging, it all made sense. You can just tell something is off, and it's occasionally distracting. Let's address the elephant in the room, though. With a runtime of 2 hours and 49 minutes, this movie is too long. While I once again don't think the movie was boring and I was not repeatedly checking my watch, I 100% believe more editing was necessary. I already mentioned that I'm questioning the amount of flashbacks, but even with the adult scenes, the time either needed to be used better, particularly for character development, or they just should have been edited down. See, I feel like they were too afraid to let go of what they did in the first film because it worked so well, but that meant sacrificing the adult characters to an extent. What I found fascinating about the adult portions of It, the novel, was the psychology of it all, the lasting trauma, the way they were all broken, the way their childhood affected their adulthood and how it reflected in their lives, the way they had to find their connection once again and how they had to face their fears. The movie touches on all of that very briefly, too afraid to dive into the psychology, too afraid to go darker, but they're adults now. It should be more complicated. They should have more demons to confront. I understand from the studio and the filmmaking perspective, shifting the tone from the first film is a risk. But I think it was a necessary one to take. The movie is getting mixed reviews anyways. I do believe they still could have balanced it out with humor and scares, while actually offering a slightly different perspective and made the movie more interesting that way. I know I'm addressing a lot of negatives here, and it might seem as if I did not like the movie all that much. I did, I promise. It's just a lot of the positives are kind of the same as they were in the first film. It's things we already know about this duology, so they seem a bit too obvious to discuss beyond just mentioning them. Here's what I'll say. Lower your expectations. You are not going to be taken by surprise by how good this movie is, like you were with the first chapter. Chapter 2 is a perfectly functional companion piece. Both films are tied together by an exceptional evil clown performance, and both films feature great ensemble casts and fun scares. I have been struggling with rating this movie. I had no idea what I'm going to rate it up until this moment, and I think I'm going to go with a very low 4 out of 5. The thing is, it's either a really low 4 out of 5 or a really high 3.5. And the reason I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 is because it's not meant as a standalone piece, right? And as a whole, the duology is definitely a solid 4 out of 5 for me, because the first movie was a very high 4 out of 5, almost 4.5, at least in my opinion. So even though I did like the first movie better, and I think the first movie can actually be a standalone film, in its entirety, the It saga, I think, is very solid, and I do think that as time goes by and we adjust our expectations, we will appreciate Chapter 2 more, because there is a lot to enjoy about it. I think if you were to watch the movies back to back, it would be a very good, cohesive experience, and I think the second part would make more sense as part of a whole rather than just on its own. That's what I'm trying to say. So I am rating it 4 out of 5 stars, but keep in mind that it is almost a 3.5, or it's a 3.5 that's almost a 4. I'm keeping it at a 4 though, for now. That's it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I would love to know what you thought of the movie, so let me know in the comments below. Let's discuss everything. If you haven't seen the movie yet, please be careful and don't read spoilers in the comments, because spoilers happen. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you very soon in my next one. Bye!